because I can be talking a little while. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Y'all get a match? Y'all get a paper? Why that match? Why that make sense? I mean, but y'all want to come up with a quick match? Y'all want to come up with a quick match? What goes together? Shout out one thing. Anything. Anything. Three, two, one. What it is? Stove and meat? I mean, I would say stove and fire. Pen and paper. Now, why that makes sense? I mean, not any deep with it, but deep with it. You can need something to write with on the paper. I would have said that, but I mean, go off, man. All right. So tonight we we have to blaze. I have a lot to say. I may as well tell y'all. This one of the things I really, really, really. I don't need the chair. Okay. That I really, really, really love to do. Teach, for the most part. It either that or I can sit in the back, and I okay with that too, actually. But by the grace of God, Pastor Cam decided and saw it fit for me to come up here and teach. So, thank you. Right? Now, because I have the responsibility, I got to make sure I give y'all as much as I have that I could fit into these 2 hours. Like I say, I have a lot. That paper alone could have been the whole time. But there's a preface before that, right? Because that's the business plan side. That's like pulling out what in your head, putting it on paper. That's how I explain vision. It's like pulling the thing that you see that you don't necessarily see with your naked eye from here to here, tangible. So we can go through that process. We didn't do the icebreaker, so let's do the intro real quick. I'll be quick. So for those of you that may not know me, hi, I'm Christina Dames. I just put a dot because I won't be deep like some people. You know how Jesus or God say, who he said to Abraham? One of them, Moses. It was Moses. To say I am, and you just fill in the blanks. So I can fill in the blanks. Although I don't want to fill it out with titles. So let me start with my being first. I am an introvert. I am a lover of people. I am a nurturer. I am a piece of work. I'm sure if you asked Jesus, he would say that. A piece of work, not titles. I am a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, my brother in the back, my sister on the way, a friend, those things. I value those titles like right up underneath my being, right? And then business. Let's talk about what I do. So, over the past, I feel like a decade long, without exposing my age, I've been helping businesses to plan, structure, access funding, um, become legitimate, whether it's through licensing or incorporation, strategize, which is similar to planning, and execute on some plans. So management, to say the least, right? So you can see those there. They just there to tell y'all I know some things, because sometimes you look at people, but you don't necessarily know that they know what they're talking about. So that's all that's for. Now let's get into the nitty gritty. Switch. Next slide. Flow. My God. Darren on the keys. So if it take a little minute, I sorry y'all. So before we get into business, right? Mindset is always top of mind for me because I have dealt with a lot of business owners Because technically, once you get a business license, you have a business, kind of, sort of. In the eyes of Department of Inland Revenue, you own a business. Whether that's structured as a solopreneurship or a partnership or whatever it is, that's a business. You own something. You have something tangible. However, not everybody that has a business have the mindset to run and operate said business. And that's okay, because that's not something you may be born with. Who is? That's something that you have to be taught. What's the mindset that you have to have? And then when you have been not entrepreneur, an employee for the majority of your life, to make that code switch could be a little bit difficult, because what tends to happen is when you get that business license, when you start that business, you just end up making a job for yourself. However, business owners have to be the overseer, manager of said business, meaning that you have to implement strategies, fine tune the offerings, and do all of the overarching stuff, the CEO stuff, I like to call it. You can't necessarily do that when you're in the business operating as an employee. Now, it's going to require that, especially in the beginning, but you always have to have that overarching thought in your mind, like I about to run something huge, right? So now, some of y'all who already have businesses should know that for some reason, when you add kingdom business to it, the way you operate is not the same necessarily as everybody else. Our flow starts and originates with God first, and then it ends up with wealth or building something substantial, building something that could be sustained. Because God values our being more than he values what we could profit. So when you align yourself with kingdom, then that means that you have to operate under kingdom. That's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean you can't access wealth. Actually, he's the one that gives you wealth. But you have to, your being, your character, all of those things have to align in order for the business to be sustainable. And in order for God to really like breathe on it and make it a thing. Because like I said, God values our being, and he's not necessarily in the business of giving us something that's going to pull us away from his attention, pull us away from him, because that's not necessarily wise. And who's the wisest of them all? They say Solomon, but I believe it's Jesus. So let's talk about mindset. Definition of mindset: a person's fundamental beliefs and attitudes that shape their thoughts, feelings, and behavior. The scripture that I thought of that immediately to back this is, for as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So essentially, what you believe of yourself, what you believe of your business, what you believe on the whole, is exactly what you create. I'm trying to stray away from manifest because that's the way it's used. Right? Next slide, Maestro. So, a few kingdom things that I want y'all to think about. Scriptures, just to meditate on. We can zip through this. First things first, seek God's will. Because ironically enough, he's the one that gives you those ideas. So, he's the one that's probably going to download to you what it is that you should be doing, right? And he has enough forethought to tell you what you should dive in before the economy says yes to the thing. Right? So, Matthew 6:33, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. All these things. Somebody point out a thing. Anybody? Quick with it. Wealth. What else? Legacy. Like that. What else? That too. What else? Health. All of that. So whatever it is that we may be wanting from the Lord, and even things that we may not think about, because he far surpasses our imagination, our thought, and all of the things. Once we seek him first, we have access to all the things, right? Second, diligence and excellence. A scripture that I feel aligns well with that is, whatever you do, you have to work heartily as of to the Lord and not for men. Why is that important? Anybody? Right? on the nail. Essentially that. When you do things to please, because men could actually lead you astray. If you continuously want to do things that please many people, you won't end up pleasing one. That's why one of my mantras is to just live my life for the audience of one. And that one is Yahweh for me, you know? And then let everything else fall in line. Because truthfully, if you're living for God, there are certain principles that he wants you to live by. And so if you follow that, you should be straight. You should be fine. Because when you die, right? Next, commitment. Commit your works to the Lord and your thoughts will be established. Right? That along with trust. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Right? So, now let's get into some other stuff. All right, vision. Okay, vision. Vision is a clear, concise, and inspirational statement outlining a company's long-term aspirations and desires, future state being, right? Whenever you start a business, that's one of the key things they ask you about. Even when you trying to get funding, grant or loan funding, they want to know what your business where your business trying to go. What do you see for your business? That's business vision, right? Now, give me a scripture on vision. Anybody? I know y'all see it, but yeah. Write the vision, make it plain on tables or notepads or tablets or whatever you got, and they that see it, read it, run with it. Right? You want to give me another one? Quick with it. That too. He tell him what to see. Look, and you see. But planning, like when God starts to download something to you, because I know y'all is prayers and readers of the Bible. When God starts to reveal something to you, especially concerning business or whatever it is, you remember that if you don't write that down. Right? So write it down. If you start to see certain things, if God starts to open your eyes as you go through life, and he reveals to you a gap in the market that you potentially have the resources to solve, or the strategy or the mindset to solve, you start writing. Put pen to paper, right? Again, I started this off saying that vision for me is when you pull that thing from into the, right? So right? So, now why is having a vision important, and how does it tie to life, business, and congruency? So congruency is essentially two things that blend well together, much like peanut butter and jelly. They go together. Salt, pepper. They go together. I have found in my experience that businesses that start small with entrepreneurs that have not yet expanded their mind beyond the beyond, that they struggle more when that business that they're building does not align with the lifestyle that they have or want to have. So, if you start a business and let's say, for example, your business is service based primarily, and you are the only one that's able to offer said services in the business. You haven't yet strategized and built it enough beyond to where you have persons working, or that some of the business load aren't dependent upon you. Now, you on vacation, or life happens, health, whatever it is. The business could stop? More than likely, because there aren't things in place to keep the business alive. So, something to consider, separating church and state is an idea to play with to balance the scales a bit. So what I tend to advise clients when they hop on a call with me is, I ask them, what do you want to do? What is your goal life-wise? Because oftentimes people want to start businesses, they can, so that they can access more money. That's the things you have to be real about. You want to start a business so that you can make $400,000, and you want to take that profit, and you want to invest it, or you want to start investing in something else. They say most businesses fail 3 to 5 years. I could say yes, and I could also say no, because if in that 5 years you hit the profit margin that you wanted to hit, and you take that profit and invest it into something else, was it a failure? You know? And that's what a lot of people do. That's what some people do. Now, some businesses don't do that. Most businesses don't. That's why the stats are what they are. However, but if you set in mind from the jump what you want this business to be, not just okay, I want to sew some bags or I want to make some soap and sell it because I like it. When you think about beyond the beyond, what is it that you, how much money that you need to have to live a certain type of lifestyle, to make a certain type of investment in other things, to sow a bigger type of tide or seed or whatever it is. You have to think from all the way over there and then work your way towards that. You build the business around that so that your business doesn't have to fight against this tension that may be happening in life, right? So, first things first, your business should serve your life, not compete with it, right? I don't want y'all to be building any business that drains your health, faith, finances, family, whatever the thing may be. It should add, more than likely. Next point, design your business model around your values, capacity, and calling, right? Then it doesn't conflict as much with what it is that you're trying to build. Your business doesn't conflict with life, and everything flows smoothly. Next slide, please, Maestro. Another big point is to clarify what your life mission is before your business mission. That's self-explanatory, I think. Anyone need me to add to that? I will. So, when you're clear on your life's purpose, and let's not be purpose seekers, I feel like the one purpose God gave us is to become more like Him. How does that, like we could be creative enough into figuring out how that aligns with the gift He gave us to serve, right? When you're clear on your life purpose, your business become a tool to fulfill it. Alignment brings peace, motivation, and divine favor. Now, I ain't a Bible scholar, but I do believe that when you in God's divine flow, then you automatically have access to the favor, Him opening up the doors, Him making things happen, aligning you with the right clients, giving you the right mindset, because you're always in His face, because He's ultimately the shareholder in the company that you have to answer to, that you have to give profits to. So that alignment is necessary, right? And then I want to throw this in there. Oh Lord, how much time? Talents. Y'all know about the parable with the talents, right? Where God gave one, what, 5, 2, and 1? 5, 2, and 1? Bible scholars, help me. 5, 2, and 1? The one with 2 went out and multiplied. The one with 5 went out and multiplied. One of the first things that God told Adam and Eve, be fruitful and multiply. So He's a God that wants us to be people that multiply. The one who didn't do nothing with the one, what did He call him? Slothful, lazy. I mean, if God talked to me like that, I would cry, be in a ball. So that means that there's an expectation of multiplication. God wants us to multiply what He gave us. That also means that He gave us something to multiply. So we should always be mindful of the fact that we have something worth multiplying. We need to figure that out and multiply. You know? Moving on. That was quick. All right. So, define what success looks like for you. So, what does success look like? Is it money, freedom, impact, obedience, the purpose? What does success look like for you? Right? Knowing all of that helps you with all of the rest. Right? Then I want you to set goals that reflect your life vision, not just market trends. Because when you start putting pen to paper and you start doing research, it could overwhelm you. It can, and pull you away from ultimately what you may be wanting or intended to do initially. So we got to stay focused. We got to stay centered, right? Now, strategy. Oh, you on time. My God. What is strategy? Strategy is a comprehensive plan or a method for achieving a long-term goal or objective. I like strategy because strategy is like math equations. It's like when you implement a formula, it should work to help you figure out what the answer is. When you have strategy, that's essentially identifying a problem, and like with math, especially with factoring, sorry y'all, I just finished 7 and 10 weeks of maths, factoring, quadratic equations. Essentially, what strategy is getting you to identify the problem and then implementing something that will help you solve said problem. Make sense? Yes. Good. Right. Next page. My story. So now I wanna have time. I wanna use someone's business as an example as I walk through these three things. So I know the mechanics of business quite well. Implementation of said mechanics is also easy, but I can need someone business to make this make sense. Who wanna volunteer? Good.
Free marketing?
Yes. What's your business? Oh, oh. What you sell?
So I sell nature's repellent,
Right, right, right.
all natural repellent
Mhm.
that actually works. And Elixir is for hair, face, and hair, so all around.
Mhm. Mhm.
Glow cream and ultimate soap cream.
You know what I like about everything you say?
Yeah.
You ain't just say I sell soap. You say I am in skincare. That's the problem you solve. Ah, I love it. So the mechanical business is gonna go over three key things, right? So let's start with the person, right? Let me go over these points so I can make sure it's said. So when it comes to business, there's three core things that you have to narrow down. And it's so simple. Who's the person that you selling to? What's the problem that you're solving? What's the process that you solve it? How you solving this problem? Because that's the differentiation, right? So when you look at the person, business starts by clearly defining who you serve, focus on serving one person well. Now that don't mean one client, y'all. I ain't really mean like if Danielle is your client, she ain't gonna sustain the business. I mean that when I say that, I mean that. Target market is what I mean. Who is the grouping, the niche of people that serve, that you are willing to serve or have the capacity to serve, that have a great enough demand that can make your business make a lot of money or whatever amount of money you're trying to make, right? Now, it also involves you having a deep understanding of your customer and create a connection and clarity. So, boom, I need you. You can stand up if you want, sit down if you want, as long as everybody can hear you. Who is your ideal client?
Okay, so I'd say teams.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from well, from my personal experience
Mm-hmm.
with trying to invest hundreds of dollars into my skin,
Mm-hmm.
going through dermatologists,
Mm-hmm.
esthetician, not being able to, like get the results I want as quick as I want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at this age.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say teens
Mm-hmm.
struggling with cystic acne,
That's what
having
I was trying to
really
get
bad
at.
cystic acne.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Having really bad cystic acne, overcoming it. So I don't think the mic is on right now, but
You get it? It
oh,
on.
it's on.
It
Okay.
on, yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. So I'd say, yeah, teens.
Teens,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
around my generation.
Right, right,
So
right.
19 to 25 or 19 to 24.
What's the average selling price of your products?
It's 15 to $20.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, $15 to $20.
So your ideal consumer are teens. Now do these teens have jobs?
Um,
$15 to $20?
yeah, that's not bad. Coming out of high school, it's not. It's really not bad. So, yeah.
Right?
hmm
Okay.
So these teens would be in college or just coming out of high school.
Okay,
They'd be able to
college.
afford my products. Yeah,
Right, right, right.
yeah. Because if you look at my products, they come off as very expensive.
Mm-hmm. No,
But
man,
it's not.
skincare.
Yeah,
You
but
know that's
it's
a $1 billion industry,
right.
multi-billion-dollar industry. Come
Yeah,
on.
so I come from a background of passion because the market is so concentrated. That's why I'm still doing it now because it's my passion and that's my mission to help. My mission is to help at least my community
Mm-hmm.
get affordable skincare products that actually work or help
Now,
towards get
have you done
the goal.
research with this
Go ahead.
business? I sorry to ask you all these deep questions.
Uh, Research
Enough in terms to
about
know how much your market size is.
no, no,
Homework.
no. I haven't.
And you set a number
I
for how much
haven't.
you want to make, how much bottles you want to sell.
Um,
You can say not yet. I mean, if you
I
have,
mean,
then that's fine.
let's say if I have a supplier for a certain product,
Mhm.
I'd set a number of how much I want to make in a certain time frame, or how
Mhm.
much I want to sell in a certain time frame.
Mhm.
But usually I just sell and it's a lot of um mistakes I've made
That's
over the past couple of months. So
business.
yeah, I just sell and then buy, sell, buy. It's
Okay, good.
yeah, it's
Well,
not
I
my
mean, after
first.
today.
Yeah, my first. Okay, I wasn't really in it for the money, because if I was in it for the
Right.
money, I wouldn't have been
Hobby.
doing natural skincare.
Hobby. Was
Yeah,
it a hobby?
what a passion. I wouldn't have been doing natural skincare if I wasn't, because I realized um it's a whole lot of other competition out there as well,
Right. Saturated.
that are actually marketing their business and
Mhm.
making a whole lot of money, and I
Oh
could be
yeah.
doing that too.
Mhm.
I've tested it out
But
as
now
well.
you want this to be a money making machine.
Right? Yes.
Got you. Nah, I can pick on who else? You want me to pick on you still, or anybody else brave for me to pick on them? I see you was selling cakes, so you should be able to hop on this. Yes, I see you. You can't hide. I keep bullying you for 2 minutes.
Okay.
So next problem. Skip. Maestro. My God. Thank you. So problem. Now, when it comes to the problem, it's important that you identify one core issue that your ideal customer is facing. Based on what he said, what has been his number one problem that the customers have? Oh, look at that. People listening. Speak directly to their pain point in your messaging, your offers, and your content. Won't bully you on that. Solving a real problem, it builds trust and demand, right? So I could skip that since y'all was listening to him. Process. This the part. Process. Now, as startup entrepreneurs, building something that could possibly scale, it is extremely vital, especially with all the digital systems and tools that exist, to streamline a process that makes sense for you. Now, digital processes, for me, non negotiable. Any business could implement it. The reason why is because we live in a digital society, a digital economy, people trying to find digital solutions. I promise you. I mean, one time ago, I was back when I was doing my nails, but now I need my nail beds to relax. I wouldn't even book with a nail tech unless they had some kind of online booking, because the way my life worked, I need schedule, right? I need schedule. And I don't want to be calling back and forth like, hey, you available? When you available? No. I mean, and that I found a nail tech. Service was, but at least she had a booking, and I was all right with that. I was all right with that. Yeah. She got me as a client because she had a booking link. Now, what does your process look like? Walk me through it from marketing, onboarding. Let me not say onboarding. Marketing, conversion, which means sales, and follow up. I guess I could say it that way. I want to say
So
it
for
differently.
me, well, I just say from the beginning. Well,
Mm-hmm.
starting from the beginning, it's like first of all, designing. I design all of the labels.
Mm-hmm.
I ensure that I have all of the necessities
Mm-hmm.
for to make my brand a
Right.
brand, right, and
Okay.
also have a story behind that brand.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of marketing, I've learned a whole lot in terms of marketing and sales
Mm-hmm.
over the last few over the last 6 months,
Okay.
working at one of the biggest digital solutions provider in the Bahamas.
Who
No longer
that?
there anymore. Just left
So you
Friday,
don't
but
want? Okay, I got you. You don't
yeah,
want to shout them, but I got you.
yeah,
Move
no.
on.
So I learned a whole lot in terms of strategies,
Mm-hmm.
and it just really opened like my eye to where my business could actually be,
Mm-hmm.
because I actually started it because I had so much money coming in at that time, and that point
Mm-hmm.
in time when I started my business.
Mm-hmm.
But now having a lesser income, it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's not the same as when I first started.
Right.
But now learning and being here today, getting so much knowledge, just it's step by step,
Mm-hmm.
building to get where I actually need to be, right?
Gotcha.
So my process, marketing, I look at the market, look at my competition, my competition,
Oh, look at
of
you in
course,
there.
and also meeting people at their needs,
Mm-hmm.
actually putting something out, and I don't put out just products every week. No, I've
Mm-hmm.
had the same 6 products from I started.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same formulation or from where I got it from,
Mm-hmm.
the supplier. So
So
yeah,
process. You only telling me one thing.
yeah, marketing,
Marketing. Uh huh.
yeah, and then oh yeah,
What
say
happens once you convert? How do
uh
you
huh.
convert them those clients? So like,
Mm-hmm.
is there like a link that they click and they order,
Oh, you mean okay? No,
or do they call you? You can say what your process is.
it doesn't. My process, I don't have too much structure. It's just basic, cash, and then if you wanna transfer like that.
Mm-hmm. But
In
how do you
terms of
sell?
right, in terms of selling,
Mm-hmm.
I've attended a lot of like pop
Okay, trade
ups.
shows and stuff.
Yeah, pop
Okay.
ups, getting my name out there, and also
Mm-hmm.
doing the management on social media,
Okay.
creating visuals, videos, because I'm very good at that
You
as
still back
well.
on marketing. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
that's
get you
marketing.
down
Okay.
the line.
Well, yeah,
You need
just
mo-
push me a little bit more down the line,
yeah.
'cause that's where
Okay.
it stops for me.
I got you. So what I'm hearing is he's a genius marketer. But what I didn't hear is now that these customers you got their attention, what's the call to action? How are they getting from like, this look nice to let me give him my coins. Then after they give you your coins, how are you keeping them, retaining them? Right? Your hand up. What that mean? You want to go into detail with how you use glue? Go ahead.
Um,
Salt and
so
pepper.
so basically, he already stated how he markets.
Mm-hmm.
Same process, kind of. I have
For your
a
business. Shout out your business, quick.
in the Mix Bakery,
That's it.
242. I have a
That's
business
all.
page on Facebook, also Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't only reach Bahamians, but also other persons around the
I'm
world.
sure.
Um, and basically, they'll message me either on social media or on my actual WhatsApp,
Mm-hmm.
and then they transfer the money basically to my personal account, or
Mm-hmm.
they will give it to me physically.
Mm-hmm.
And then how I reach more persons is that I would attach my business card
Right,
or
right.
my business flyer on
Mm-hmm.
the cake box,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would also tell other persons about me,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I get my
Word of
customers.
mouth. Mm-hmm.
And then I would ask them, hey, how was the cake or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
to do like follow up. Yeah.
Boom. I like that. But do you have a form? Oh, I see this time. This was always here.
Yes.
Oh. Okay. Okay. So how do you get information from the client to say what they want? Do you have forms?
I have a
Digital forms?
I have a automatic message
Mm-hmm.
that states my price list and all of those things like that.
Uh-huh. And so what do the customer do? Like how do they have to say, okay, I want this style cake and da da da.
Yes.
They just send it in the WhatsApp chat?
Yeah, so everything they
Mm.
sent in a WhatsApp chat, some will be not clear. They would just say
I'm sure.
I want a cake. So I would then ask what size, what flavor, and what design. So that's always my three
Mm.
questions. And
Mm-mm.
then if they're not clear about what they want, I would just ask like, is there a specific color, or
Mm.
is there any interest that you
I
would
love
like?
this. Oh my god, I wish I had more time.
And I would go on Pinterest and I would look for photos for them, and I would forward photos, and I tell them to choose from
Mm-hmm.
the 3 photos that I sent to them.
Mm-hmm. Good. All right. I will not. Let's go on. I like that you have that much. Um, y'all you learn quite quickly. I'm a digital girly because the way I like what you have going on. If you had a form that said, "What kind of cake do you want?" They have options. Drop down. They could click that. What size cake? They could click that. What style cake? They could upload that. Right? Budget. Depending on if they're pricing, because you may have to quote for something. You give them a. They could click a budget. And once they send that to you, guess what? While you baking, people reaching out to you. You know. Let's click on. Right? Yeah. Man, because listen, manually, if you have to keep on having to stop what you're doing to message people, that's going to slow down the time. You could actually convert more clients if you had a form out there somewhere. I ain't saying have a website you starting up. You may not have that. You could have a link tree with links for persons to come in and, hey, we can get there. Click. Next, maestro. Okay, so I hope y'all taking notes now. The people who aren't taking on yet, I come to you, you know. I love you. All right. There used to be a time when I would advertise for business license and get a lot of clients for business license services. However, I realized that for me personally, I like to see people doing stuff with their business, and so it started to annoy me that I would get people that get a lot of business licenses and they would do nothing with said business. Is that my problem? No, it's not. But clearly, kingdom, right? God have me situated a different type of way, a midwife, if you will. I like to see people take their business and actually make it something, make it something making sense, right? So I was like, business license ain't gonna be it for me right now. Now, do I still do it? Sure, for incorporated clients because they're serious enough and I know they're making. So, business viability. I no longer rush people to license. Why? Because after you license your business, if you if you don't have a job and that job ain't paying your NIB, you will be owing NIB as a self-employed volunteer insurer. And if your business isn't making enough money to could pay them whatever their minimum amount is, by the time as you need a TCC, tax compliance certificate, you won't be able to get it. Because now you are, you may want to get that good government contract. They like TCCs because they want to make sure you're paying their bill, right? So if you have a landscaping company, but you ain't been working, but you have that business license sitting there, because he promised you he was going to give you a contract, but years gone by, government then change over. You ain't paying nothing to NIB. Now you ain't got no money on. Go ahead. We can get the business license in. But what you was going to say, let me keep. Uh-huh. They do, don't they? If you're an employee, they should pay your NIB. And once they paying you, no. So if your job is paying your contributions, then you don't have to pay contributions. That's why I said for those that didn't have a job but they get that license and they had that license, gurn, and they ain't make no money and now they owe NIB, da da da. But if you have a job, then you straight. All you gotta do is write a letter closing off periods because for some reason NIB is kind of like they have amnesia and they can't see your contributions coming from your job. So now you have to close off those periods in order for them to give you your TCC. They want their money, right? So I no longer rush people to get their license because some businesses are not viable. Meaning that there is no real problem they solving. There is no willing customer willing to give them any money. And they don't have a clear way of delivering said solution to said customer. So somewhere along the line, they was like, it's COVID. People need masks. I could make mask and I could put logo on said mask. When was the last time somebody buy a mask with a logo on it? And you know what else they do? They name that name that business Delectable Mask. I know real business. I ain't picking on nobody. And it was really just for them to design masks and sell it to people. They didn't know how long COVID was gonna. None of us knew. There was no forethought in the business. Or I'm trying to think without I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, so I'm trying to make sure I don't call a real business name. This can't be for me. Oh. Or fogging. During COVID, some people set up, eating well. That's a good example of a business that started in COVID time, and they sure they make a boatload of money just digging that thing in your nose and testing it, swabbing, something you could do by yourself. But I digress. They make a boatload of money, $80 a pop, $100 a pop, $120 a pop. But you know what they call the business? Eating well. Now you know what they do since COVID ain't the biggest thing anymore. What else they test for? There's a lab test. They do lab testing. That's a smart transition from doing a bunch of COVID. Because the thing is, you have to know what's necessary in the market, serve that, but then you have to have forethought. Because COVID is no longer a thing, and there were a lot of businesses that got started during COVID that shut down because they only started because they needed to fill a gap. They needed money. But your need for money don't mean nothing if you're not solving an active problem. And if said active problem is no longer a problem, then you no longer have a business. Is the business viable? No, it's not. So you have to have, in order for a business to be viable, there has to be a real problem. There has to be a willing customer, and there has to be a repeatable process that makes it make sense. Because then that's ultimately how you can possibly scale said business, right? So before the licensing, I always say test it, even if it means just surveying your customers and seeing exactly what they need. Even if it means doing enough research to see what your competitors are doing and what your customers need, and filling that gap in between, right? So test for viability before you spend up all your money, all your resources, doing something that may phase out over a period of time. Blockbuster is also another good example. How much? How much do y'all know about Blockbusters? I see some people definitely. Okay. You ain't know about Blockbuster. That's all right. You know about Netflix though. So Blockbuster, you know about videotape, like cassette. Oh Jesus. That's all right. That's all right. Y'all know about it though. See, good. See, if Blockbuster had enough foresight to see that the economy was turning digital, they might have been the first Netflix. Did that happen? No, it didn't. So that's something to be mindful of. Now we on to the part that I really like, the legitimizing of said business. So now after you then visualize what you want this business to be, make it congruent with the lifestyle that you want to have, even if it means just looking at the numbers and saying this how much profit I want to make. And then you tested that business and you realize now it's viable because you did enough research. You spoke to the customers that you are needing to serve. You narrow down your niche, or you narrow down your ideal client. You narrow down your ideal problem that you want to solve, and you have a process in place. Let's talk legitimate. Now, a lot of people don't know this. So I got to say, when you get a business license, there's 3 different ways that you could structure said business with the Department of Inland Revenue. The first way, most common way I should say, the most common way is just a trading as, meaning you are Danielle Rule. Right. I don't know why I was seeing another name. Role, right? Trading as, what's your business name? Beauty Essence Studio. Now, what that business structure means is the liability for that business, structured as it is unlimited. Meaning, you can get loans, you can get sued, depending on the type of risk the business is. Because if you had not that business, but you had, for example, a Stuart Cove type of business where you have customers in the water with sharks, and something happened to that customer, whoever name on that top line of that business license is held liable, right? So the liability of that business is unlimited. But that's the most common because that and partnership is the most common because you don't have to spend $1 million to make it limited in terms of liability. I made that clear, or I need to make that clearer than that. Y'all can say. Clear it up some more. So, oh, so essentially, maybe if I go into the other parts, it would make it more clear. I think that's what, yeah, I think that's what could happen. So then there's the partnership structure, and then y'all see the difference between the 3. In the partnership structure, That is where you have more than one person, more than one individual that's operating in the business, and they have a legal ownership of that business, meaning that for that trade name, to your name on that. For that physical planning letter, to your name on that. For the most part. For when you are submitting everything to the Department of Inland Revenue, you're sending it to your passports, to your NIV, because the two y'all own that business. And if you're smart, you have a partnership agreement. If you're smart, you have a partnership agreement that states this person owns this percentage of the business, the next person owns this percentage, and this is what they contribute to said partnership and all the other particulars. Right? Now, the liability or risk is shared. So if you want to start Cove and a customer get bite or die and they sue the business and they are awarded $1 million in damages, then if you all have a house worth 500,000 each, that house up for grabs. So whatever assets you own individually is open to the business because your name or your name on that top line, right? Trading as whatever it is. Now, limited, my favorite type of business structure. Why? Because the liability limited. Meaning that when you go through that process of incorporating a company, you're setting up a separate entity, a separate artificial entity. That's like giving your business a birth certificate. So the shareholders of that company, they own the company in truth. But the company is its own individual. So any damages that may need to occur by lawsuit or loan or whatever is only going to be limited to that company. So with a limited company, if the company were to get a loan and the bank award the company that loan, the company is liable to pay off that loan. Now, if something happened and the company no longer can handle said loan, then you got to liquidate it, meaning you have to sell off the assets that can be sold, pay it off, and after that, that's it. Your personal assets ain't up for grabs. So your $1 million house that you pay from your dividends from years before, your profits from years before, that's still yours. That ain't got nothing to do with the liability or paying off that debt, right? So it's like limited structure gives you that shield. It covers you from having to have your personal stuff that you're trying to leave a legacy for your children and your children's children. It protects you from that. Bahama Divers is a company that comes to mind. Y'all know about Bahama Divers? Boom, boom. So that was a company that they used to do, they used to do excursions, like dives, similar to Stuart Coves. But there was an incident and someone died, but they have a company structure. Now, they have processes and things in place to prevent the thing from happening, but when the customer don't necessarily align with what you say to do, then I mean, hey. So, but because Bahama Divers had mainly U.S. customers, it allowed for the person who had the loss to put in a lawsuit in the United States for them, and Bahama Divers ain't show to defend themselves. However, not even however, so what happened is the person got rewarded for damages and Bahama Divers had to pay. Now, what that got to do with the shareholders? That just means they ain't got no dividends coming in the next few years. Whatever the company owned, whether it's $1 million worth of stuff or less, and the damages were $2 million, then whatever the company have, they liquidate it, sell it, they give it to them, and that's that. Whatever money they made over the years, personally, like say me and Danielle, I'm picking on you, I'm sorry. Say me and Danielle, the shareholders of this company, we have 50% split assets, like split shares. That had nothing to do with the dividends we had been earning before. Whatever there, that go towards the damages. My $1 million house and her $3 million house, still our $3 million house. Whatever dividends was already claimed, yes, before, and were invested in other real estate or other things, it had nothing to do with what was going on with that. So that's the difference. I have questions still. Clear? Boom. Right? That's not to knock persons who. That's not to knock persons who have sole ownership, because sometimes you have to start that way if you wanna be serious in business, open up a bank account and do all that stuff, and have clients send transfer monies to your business account. That's not to knock that, for sure. Do what you have to do, but at some point, you may want to make that transition once you see that the business is viable and it's making consistent enough money, whatever, to make it incorporated. Right? Good. Now, execution. Y'all see that paper on y'all desk? I'm making good time, I think. Right? Making good. Now we're gonna talk about all of that good, nice, juicy stuff. Planning. When you fail to plan, what they say? You plan to fail. I don't know what else the scripture says, so your business, yeah. If that's a scripture. That's a scripture? That's just a saying, eh? That's like they say, what they say about a humble child takes the grace of God. That ain't nowhere in the Bible. Nowhere. I ain't find it. I ain't never see it. I ain't never see it. If y'all see that, tell me, but I ain't never see it. The what? The praises go up, the blessings come. That ain't in there. That's not in there. So, one of the biggest challenges I find that a lot of customers that I serve have is that they are very anxious about making a business plan. It's like maths. Not everybody trying to do all of that, you know. Um, however, comma AI, AI. What does it sound like I say? AI. Okay, good. Sound like I say AI. I said that a wow. AI has made it so much easier. However, comma when you don't have the right prompts to tell the thing what to do, then it just give you garbage. It's only as smart as the user. Now I've been writing plans for quite some time. Hubby could tell you he get plenty money off of my brain, plenty. Oh Lord, on grant and yeah, partnership. On grant. What else? Be no, be inspired with me. I'm fine. You right, but that was something else though. Business boardroom. They ain't don't have that no more. Boardroom and SBDC several. I have other clients other than you that did own grant. They got the own grant. Royal Caribbean Kickstarter, and even like airport. I had to help someone do a pitch for the airport. Y'all know it's kind of difficult to get in there as a vendor. That proposal was thick. That was thick. Woo! And I was away when I do that. So, planning. I say all that to say, when you have the proper plan and you know how to pitch, and you know how to do all that good stuff, then it helps you. It helps you with getting what you need to make your business make plenty sense. Because when you go in the planning process, it forces you to think about things that you may not think about originally, like your vision. If you don't sit down and write down exactly where you see yourself in the next 5 years, your business in the next 5 years or whatever, then you're not going to work towards that, right? So this tool is a twofold, but I ain't even give you the PDF to do the next part and the prompts. But anyway, we can work through this. We can work through this part. So it's a two-part. There's a worksheet part. Yeah, but no, we don't need it yet. We can go through this first. And then if I don't get to that, then I can send you the prompt stuff and then, yeah. So the goal of this is to simplify the planning process. There are certain things in your business plan that has to be there, you know? And it also expands on those three core things: the problem, the person, the process. It expands on those three things. The banks want to know that you know your stuff. They also want to know that your numbers making sense. People who you may be pitching for grants, a lot more grants coming up. The budget debate just finished, so just wait and see. They want to know that you know your stuff, right? And I don't pick on people as I do this because I know if y'all gonna be writing for real. Nah, I ain't gonna do you. You want me to do you? I ain't gonna do you. No. No. I could do you. No, no. I said I was coming back. Woman of my word. I said I was coming back. So we could pick on your business. Because I didn't pick on his. So we could pick on yours. She was selling cakes. She sell cakes, you know. I'm sure. I'm sure. Do y'all? Okay, this is what we can do. This is what we can do. Partnership. Let's talk that for 2 minutes. I started with that icebreaker for a reason. Y'all should have guessed salt and pepper. But I don't know if y'all know this, but when you're doing things with someone else that align your business, your vision align with their vision, you get further faster. Further faster. I can't even pick on y'all because y'all is my brother and my sister in the back. Man, listen, I can talk about it brief. I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. Okay, so y'all have a business. What y'all do? I know what y'all do, but don't say sell cakes. Say something else.
Well, for me, I like to stay creative with different flavors, just giving persons a journey. Their
Mm-hmm.
taste buds. My slogan is basically let your taste buds go on a journey.
Right, right, right.
It's just to like create different flavors and different ideas.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
help persons.
Yeah, you satisfy a social need. Because what's a birthday without cake? What's a wedding without cake? What else? Baby shower? Is have cakes or meatballs? And meatballs. Right? Crab salad, meatballs. Whoever invite anyway, that's neither here nor there. So what we can do is we go I like meatballs for real. Love it. So what we can do is I want y'all to come up with a fictitious ish type of business and y'all gonna have to be forced to blend. Now everybody in this room gotta help them. Now is this gonna be chaotic? Maybe. But is it gonna be fun? Sure. We will. Who can do the chat GPT part? Who able to do the chat GPT part? Yeah? You get volunteered. Right. No, no, no. Leave it. Leave that part there. Yeah, leave it like that. So I want y'all, we can make a business like now. In the next like 30 minutes. Um, if you need AI to figure out the in betweens, we could do that. But this essentially, it's it's for you to get out within your brains first. Because again, AI is only as smart as its user. That means you gotta tell it what you trying to get it to do. But you need to know first what you want in order for it to do what you need it to do. Right? So we the first things first. We coming up with the name. Do I read this part? No. Y'all can read that part. Y'all need me to read that part, that first page? Okay, good. Good. Because we working with time. We got to come up with a name for this business. Because we kind of know what we want to do, right? We kind of know the kind of business. I know that's working. It's so backwards, really and truly. Because it's what's the problem y'all have? What's the problem y'all want to, what's the person y'all want to serve? Start there. Who y'all want to serve? Both of y'all, yeah. It's a partnership. Fictitious, but we got to make it make sense.
Businesses, weddings,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Come here. Women who normally purchases cakes. Mothers. Because if we talking demographic, I know that's skipping a bit. Yeah. Who booking? Who booking y'all cakes? Who's that person? What's she name? She name. You know? And what's their lifestyle, their interests, what they want? What's the problem they have? Right, right. So they trying to meet a budget requirement, but they want cake. They want cake because they have an event coming up, whether it's a birthday. How old this person is? What's their range, age range? Hmm. What I asking you? How old they is? Yeah, she answered me so. How old they is? It don't matter. It can matter. No, 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 no. Your 1 year old ain't got no money to buy no cake. Who buying? Who buying?
My target would be from about 25 to about 30, 35, 40.
Uh
The
huh.
older people get they watch their sugar.
For real. And then they're children ordering the cake for them. Boom. So you want it. So let's now, okay, boom. Age range 25 to 35, 40, let's say, okay, boom. Now we know our gender. Who is buy the cakes more than anything else? Females. So boom, now we know it's a woman. She between the age of 25 and 35 or 40. Okay. What's her income level? Because she needs to have some money.
Yes.
How much money she's made? A year.
20,000.
A year?
You work a hotel job? Sure.
I,
35,000.
let's talk someone who have disposable income.
So we're talking
We can get to that. We still won't make money with the people.
minimum wage is
A year, okay.
16,000.
So we can start. Well, nah. If we consider the age, and they between the age of 25, they may not have a 20,000. So okay, let's start with maybe 15,000. Because if they just getting into government, then they probably making between 12 and 15,000 a year. Okay, all right. So let's go. Depends. It ain't gonna be you, nurse. It ain't gonna be you. It ain't gonna be you. They got some. I'm telling you. It's too low, eh?
Let's just start.
We can start with 12, between 12 to 15,000 a year up. Cause nah, how much for you? Hold on, we don't go to cake. How much? Yeah. See, cause my mind already thinking how much the cake costs. That's $150 cake in my mind. Cause it ain't $30. No way, $150 for that one cake. That one man, they save up 3 months. What happened? Oh, you right though. You saw right. So how much the product cost? It ain't gonna be $50, eh? I know that's right. Y'all ain't see the kind of cakes Miss Mamas is make. They come together. That and there's a partnership and they more make money. They gotta make dividends. So how much? 50K a year? It's too little bit? My God! 50K is too little bit? Now we see a couple of christenings. And a lot of them christenings, them mummies ain't making 50K. And they didn't buy, they dress custom make.
So they borrow the money.
Yeah, that's right. No, they ain't focusing.
They will borrow the money.
They getting their cake. They have priorities, but that cake getting by. I mean, I've seen several christenings would look better than weddings. That's right. Hello, hello. That's why I can say I can let 15,000 slide because everybody don't have priorities. They want cake. So we talking about who want cake. Fancy cake. Hello. I lie or I lie? I lie. 15,000 and up. They ain't got no priority. Yeah. Now see, you got sense. You ain't spending all that money and you ain't making all that money. You got, Thank you. So that's what we working with. 15. All right, cool. The cake costs 100. How much? $50. 128. Cause that's a nice cake. Right. Okay. You quiet. Don't worry. You ain't just listening. Now that we didn't get that part out of the way, we know who we serving. We know how much their money they're making. We know what we selling. Right? Nah. There's so much niche to go into what the business can call. What niche we considering? What niche? You gonna call it Tasty Treats? That's the name of your business now, though. No. Okay. What name you thinking about?
That's the name of another business.
Huh? Hey, we ain't doing all that. This fictitious. Let us be great, man. Tasty Treats. Tasty Treats. Now, when people hear Tasty Treats, what they thinking? Sweets, desserts. Because the new Duff, I only thinking Duff. Even though now, they don't just sell Duff. You know, it is a new duck though. Cake me awake. Wow. Y'all writing? Who else? Who need a business name right now? Now, what industry this is? It's food services for sure, right? Okay, what problem or needs does this business solve for the customer? Let's think convenience. Y'all see it? Convenience, and let's think what's the market gap? What's something that customers want but they ain't able to get? Like for example, think about like a Uber. Uber is like taxi except with all the fanfare. And it's simple, it's easy. You could be home, book that, and there's multiple drivers all over the place. They could come serve you. So, what problem does it solve? Because it doesn't just have to be, oh, they have a hankering for cake. It could be, I don't know if I can help. I don't know if that's a convenience you could solve. Y'all, how long it take to make a cake? Right, this ain't no. A last minute might help y'all actually. 8 hours, and that depends on how much you serving at the time. So okay, let's throw convenience in there just for the heck of it. And what else? What else the customers want? It ain't gonna be cost. Quality, maybe. Efficiency, all right. And then for some people, they just want to be able to say, because your brand built big enough that they like Starbucks. Do I need Starbucks? Do I want Starbucks? Yes. Right? No priorities. Like she said, I don't care how much money I'm making. I'm trying to get Starbucks. Huh? Personal. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. Art, boom, bop, and bip. Okay. Now, what inspired y'all to make this business? Passion don't always pay the bills. What else? Hold on, don't say nothing. I am hell bent on picking on her. Hell bent. That's right. Oh Lord. Cast the heavy burden, Lord. Where the prayer warriors? Right. Grew up in Nassau on island. Oh, you got island people? That's right, I know. With arm fat. That's how you know they know what they doing. They ain't got no arm fat. I don't trust them. Okay. Now, moving on. They do make a difference. So, what are your customers' main points? I know we sound like we laboring on this so long, but it's so important. What do they care about? Now, I don't hear something I already hear. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. 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 That's right. Dry cake. You said it. That cake, listen, that better taste good. That better not be dry. And that better last. If that's a wedding cake and I freeze that, when I unfreeze that in a year, that better still taste good. Even if it make my belly bubble. I don't care. Better still taste good. Yes. Oh, someone getting called out. Who do that? Y'all ain't going to the right person. Right. Okay. All right. Good. So that. So now our business. Who writing? Cause I ain't remember all of this. Who writing? Just kind of scoot it on. Y'all keep that in your brains. Cause now y'all gotta. Remember I say paper you gotta write down. I ain't remember none of that. All right. So now, where do your customers shop? Where they gonna look? Where's the first place they're gonna look when they're trying to find someone to cake? Social media. Boom. Where else? Tickety talk, cause it popping. Okay. That's it. Where else? Where else? You ain't thinking. Ah, it's for events, okay, but that's for the little small. That's the cupcake people who want cupcake for the little Christmas event. That's all right though. That's true. For bad stuff though, I think. Let someone mess up. Oh God. For cake and thing is put it in there and say, oh, anybody know someone okay? Word of mouth. What's up? Okay. So now we know where the customer can be, so we know how we can market. Marketplace, yeah. I mean, no, for true, yeah. But people normally trying to go on marketplace to buy used stuff, right? Okay, now what motivates them to buy? I already said that. Yeah, no, I didn't say that. What motivates your customers to buy? Look at you, ooh, showing initiative, hand up and everything. See, they taste, yeah. Cause you know what happened? They go into that baby shower, taste that cake, and say, "Hey, who you get this cake from?" They go into that wedding. Ooh, this cake tastes good, eh? You ain't got it. And I hope your customers don't be shieling, cause some of these customers is be blocking your blessings. Referral program, give me come. All right, good. So taste, all of that stuff, price maybe, but sometimes they don't really care how much stuff costs if it tastes good. If it's quality, they ain't care. Especially these baby shower people, not baby shower, what you call them? Christening, cheesecake, huh? All right, cool. Now, we know we selling one key thing, but now our product list. So, for your business, it could get quite interesting. Could get quite colorful because there's different flavors. But you're doing one thing, yes, you're baking stuff. So there are some things that you're gonna use for almost every cake, especially if you ain't doing something gluten free or something specialized or whatever. I ain't no baker, but I think you need yeast and you need flour and you need sugar, oil, butter, right? Yeah. So they the core stuff, right? Milk. That's right. Teach me, girl. I can make cake. No. Right? Yeast. What you can say? Vanilla extract. You don't need yeast. But see, I tell y'all I don't know how to make. I tell y'all ain't take my word for it. I don't know how to make cake. I put the box. See the box cake. Normally, if I make it, that's why I heat it. Put the. Thanks. Thank you. And the cake is done. When you put it in the right temperature, me and Buki in the back, my boy, we make the cake and that's that. He ain't want us to do this yet though. He sick of us making cake. That's all right. So, you know you need that. Now, child, now, there's other stuff to make it flavorful and extra. Now, I like, what you call it, Wendy's and them. I don't know if y'all go to Wendy's as much as I used to. But they have a core thing. They got the fries, they got the chicken, they got the burger. And that's really it, you know, the chili make from the burger. The added flavors, they just adding stuff. The specialty stuff they have in the summer, they only mix and matching stuff and maybe adding some berries. That's it, you know, but they have core stuff. So that's where you add in the little extra stuff. I'm trying to figure out a process to simplify. This process makes sense. So let's take the baking part out of it, because y'all is the experts, I am not. What process we thinking about when we get these clients, these people for cake? Because y'all know your products. Y'all say cake, cupcake, 6-inch, 10-inch, double tail, timing to cook. Mm. 8 hours. Okay. Cheesecake and cupcake. Uh-huh. What you need, that nice. Y'all get. Okay, good. So now, let's say our list of products is this, so we can get this part done. The list of products is cake. It could be 6-inch, 10-inch, double tail, triple tail. I don't know if you go beyond that. Ah, real baker. Ah, real baker. Then you got your cupcakes, your cheesecakes. I don't know if cookies come in it because it's tasty. What the name is? Tasty Bites. tasty treats. TT, take me away. Cake me away. Look how y'all make me mess up the name already. Who writing? Somebody need to write this. Cake me away. And we got our products. Then we got to get our pricing. I ain't gonna bother with the pricing. Because y'all got to know how much your stuff costs. Then our tax. I mean, profit margin, all of that stuff. Yeah? You don't want them? That's not a problem. That is a problem. But I'm glad we're talking about it now. Good, I ain't gonna pick on you. But that's a problem. We could always work on that. The thing about ChatGPT too is, if you don't necessarily know how to break down your pricing, once you didn't tell it all of what we didn't tell it so far, products, all of that, you could truck that in there. Y'all know about ChatGPT, right? I just assume everybody know. Who don't know about ChatGPT? Who don't know? You know? Everybody know? Okay. So for those who may not know, and shame to say, ChatGPT is an amazing tool that you could type in like, huh? That's it. Or prophesy to you. You ain't want to do all of that. So, so ChatGPT and other like AI tools like it allows you to say, like you could put in certain prompts. Now, base prompt is something just a statement. You're telling it to do something. Now, the way that you structure that prompt have to be making sense. It have to be you establishing what ChatGPT need to be for you. If it need to be a tutor, it need to be a business consultant, it need to be a lawyer, it need to be whatever. Because then it can base its response off of that. Right? What happened? So, sound like y'all in, huh? What y'all, anyway, I ain't gonna pick on y'all. So you put in, okay, this is what I need from you, ChatGPT, right? This my problem. I have it's an app, yeah. You could access it on the web too. The logo look just like this, just like that. And then you tell it like, okay, I am building out a business plan or whatever. I'm trying to narrow down my products and price it and all of that or whatever. I have this list of products. The price is going to range from this to this. Help me to differentiate the pricing, the cost, all of that based on general market stuff. Now, it's probably going to pull from whatever it see online already and whatever it knows online already. No, it don't. It could, but like it's only as smart as you. Now, what to say? Hold on. In certain institutions, they discourage the use of AI because if you use it, it's like plagiarism. So you really have to have integrity when it comes to that. In business and other sectors, you still have to know what to tell it to do. Because it helps you to narrow down. You could have a document that you don't want, a 300-page document that you don't necessarily want to read all of that because you don't have the time. You could upload it to that and tell it to summarize the key points and, you know what I mean? It'll read it, assess it, and itemize what it needs to itemize. Based on, now there's certain data online that you could ask it to access and pull. What's the market size for this? What's the general value of this particular industry? You could ask it whatever you needed to give you back, ask it. Now, that don't mean ChatGPT don't always get the dizzy. Sometimes it can get the dizzy, especially if you're not specific in what it is you want it to do. Right? I can tell you, because sometimes I wanted to help me work out certain equations, and then when I work it out and notice that it ain't the same as, I'm like, hold on, wait. Nah, based on this principle, I know this is supposed to be this, so what you're giving me, I need you to help me, da-da-da. Right? But that means you have to know certain things in order for it to make sense, right? So it ain't gonna make you dumb. It could make you more, but it shouldn't make you, because you should know what you needed to do, right? So when it comes to some of the questions on here that you may not necessarily know how to fully develop, have an idea of what it is, the direction you want to go in, put it in there, and it can help you narrow some things, right? So that's how we could approach product pricing, even description, because you know exactly whatever. It can help you even like rewrite some of the things. So it's like a copywriting thing too, mainly. but then it also helps you source information at an expedited speed. Because it's not the same as you could put it into Google too, but in Google you still gotta read all the stuff. You gotta go through the pages. There are some instances where you're gonna need to do that deep level of research. And then there's some instances like with this, you already have the major knowledge of what it is you're trying to build and develop. You just want ChatGPT to narrow it down for you, right? So there's that. So now we know the products, we know the pricing, we know the things. Process. So we still on products and whatever. But process, this is the section 2 products and services side. How are your products or service delivered to the customer? Give me some ideas. For take it away, cater it away, cake me away. That was close. Not necessarily. So how are they getting so after you then advertise, what's their process? How are they engaging to get the process how they getting that cake from, I want a cake, reach out to y'all, you make the cake, you get the cake. Okay. Right. Right. Okay. So that's for mainly the cake side. I mean, it could also be used for cupcakes. So what would be another, since it's a partnership, what would be another delivery method? Delivery, sure. No, because I know that's, yes, I know. Because I know that he mentioned trade shows. Another thing to that would be events and all the things. Or, because pop ups or whatever. You create a certain amount and you sell it to said events or whatever the case may be. Cater it, however. That's your method of delivery. For give or take. That could also be considered a delivery method. Say again? Or craving. But that's their delivery. Now, how y'all choose to deliver could be through a third party or y'all hire a delivery. What? We talk about mindset or what? We talk about mindset or what we do? As a man think it what? We gotta fix it. We gotta fix that. We as big as we wanna be. Now, what makes your offering unique or better than others on the market? Fat free? Hey, a cake? Vegan? It is a niche. Gluten free? This what your customers want? Or they want the fat to stick to the ribs? Some don't, yeah. Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. How do I quantify the love I put in it? How do I quantify? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. 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 So that's the love. Yeah, you're talking about enhancing the cake. Let's talk more. Like, okay, let's say the product is what it is and exactly what the customer want. What about the experience makes it different than anything else? What about the experience of them? Mm-hmm. Okay. What else? Boom. Yeah. Because how many? Right. Because I think that actually matters. Yeah, I think that actually matters even more than getting them from the jump. Because, I mean, sometimes you get them by the taste. Because, like I mentioned, they tell a baby shower, they taste that cake. Wow, I want that cake. It's the presentation, the ease of onboarding. I like to consider it because I mean everybody with a business technically onboards, even though it looks different. That conversion, that customer service, right? Those same answers there. What's unique? It doesn't just necessarily have to be the cake, because everybody doing cake, right? So we got customer service, right? But outside of that, I like to talk systems.
Okay, so how about once they put in the order, then they get an automatic email that says, okay, thank you for
I
ordering,
can't work up here.
and then after that, it has
Ah,
a follow-up email like what
that's
the
it.
order was and it
See?
says your cake is in the oven.
Hello. Ha. Ha.
Something like that.
Ha.
And then a final email.
That's what I like to hear.
Cake is ready for
To pick up or it will be delivered at the see that's what I talking about. That's it. That's what I talking about. Huh? Sure, go ahead. Mm-hmm. No. So it would look the same. So let's take the process part out of it. Who have a service-based business in here that I could pick on other than you? You have a service, but you have a physical service. Like you have to deal with hair and makeup. Okay, let's talk about that. Who in here have a digital service? Anybody? A service that you don't you. Okay. Right. Okay, good. I got two different type of service. Okay, so with your tell me about your business. I know you do hair and makeup. For of course. I mean Say don't do that. Mm-hmm. Right, right. So in her example, the process would look the same. So it would look like, how do you onboard your clients now? You have a booking link? Uh huh. That clients use. Okay, good. Right. So the onboarding process for her would look similar in that marketing, digital, onboarding, digital. You have people fill out a form, decide on the date because you're going to set your availability on when they could engage with your service. You have a location for them to come, or if it's you go to them, however they could pick it. And then once you deliver the service, they pay you. Then you can do the same thing, marketing thereafter, because now you have their email. So when you have digital services and you require persons to put in their email, because most people have that. If you have a phone, you should have an email, because that's how Gmail and Google and the whole enterprise works. If you have a Facebook, you have an email, right? And then thereafter, you continuously, and see, the thing is too, when you in your onboarding on your forms, depending on the type of business you have, right? So for cakes, they're probably buying cakes for a certain event, whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, whatever. On their onboarding form, they could say, okay, this for this. You be mindful of the date, right? And you set an automatic email that will email them around that same time. They're mindful of you for every single year. Same with you, except in your instance for booking, you could have them, if depending on the type of booking system you use, set up a rotational booking system. That they come to you. Anyone in here do nails? No way. Okay, whatever. You do lashes? Anybody in here do lashes? So there are certain types of physical services that you need to be maintained like every 2 weeks. So what I see some nail techs doing is you set that appointment up every 2 weeks. You put that in your booking thing up every 2 weeks. I don't remember. So the barber pretty much implements the same process. So essentially that. So with those types of services, you could pretty much set a rotation. That's how you get retained customers. Because new customers cost more than repeat customers. Because you got to spend more money to advertise, to attract them, to, get them to make a buying decision, right? But customers who already spend with you, they're more likely to spend with you again. So implementing those same digital systems that we've been mentioning and floating around the room will help you to grow the business. That's the growth part. Grow your clientele. Scaling looks a little different, but at least you have that basic framework, right? Now, digital services, about the same. Y'all have forms. What kind of business? Graphic design, both of you. Look at another partnership, even though y'all probably aren't partners, but look how far y'all can go. If you are partners, partnerships make you church, right? Y'all send the emails and stuff. Who's sending? Right, yeah. Right. So, but nonetheless, y'all know more about these digital systems than anything else. Once you get emails from people and you could continuously, because social media can crash, then what? But people have emails, so you could reach them regardless. I mean, that has happened actually. Instagram and Facebook shut down for a couple of days and people lose all kind of money. TikTok ban. That just happened when? This year. Oh my God. They was freaking out. But emails, if you convert people to emails, so like for services, for persons that may not have even purchased with you, but you give them a lead magnet. So a lead magnet is essentially something that you entice someone to make a decision, to follow up on a call to action, whether that be click this link, download this thing, free, and it solves a problem that they have, that gets them into your sales funnel for them to purchase whatever it is that you may have. So something like that similarly can be designed for persons with cakes or physical products that persons may not decide that they want right now, but they want probably join your email list because you've given them some sort of value. And eventually, because they see you so much, either in their email or on their social media, they then decide to make a buying decision, right? That's why I love digital. This wasn't a digital thing. I wanted to make sure you get the planning part of it. But if we were talking digital, this would be a conversation. Hello. But planning comes before that, I believe, because you have to know the mechanics of your business. You have to know the mechanics of your business. There are parts of this too, like where you could go through your pricing, and then with the prompt side that I will send to you, if I haven't, I already sent to you, that you could send out to the persons here. Once you do those prompts, it can help you with your break-even analysis. Anybody know what that is? What's a break-even? Anyone? Not necessarily. So break-even is equivalent to zero. So essentially, that means when your expenses and your revenue match up. Now, profit is when your revenue and the profits exceed your revenue. Loss is when your revenue is lower than what you have to spend to keep the business going. That's red line. In the black is break even. Y'all heard about that before? That term? In the black, that's when you break even. When it's green, money. Y'all make a profit. Cha-ching. Right? So there are prompts even with the that he will send you where you can work out what your break even is. Meaning you can analyze the cost of what you're selling, the fixed cost, the variable costs, and then match that with how much you have to sell to at least hit zero. Once you know, okay, I have to sell 20 units in order to hit my break even, then you can push to sell 30 units a week. Right? Because that's when business start making sense. And you'll be mindful of, and that's what managers do too. They have to hit a certain quota to contribute to their contribution margin of whatever the company overall makes. Right? So break even is necessary because then you know the number that you have to sell. And it won't be a hobby, not picking on anybody. It won't be a hobby, it will be an actual business. Right? So that's why the planning process is necessary. Because you can't just be like, oh, I like making cakes. Let me make this cake and hope a customer comes. With no strategy, that's a business built to fail. Right? Okay, we talk about products. I have an extra sheet here for products. Okay. So you plan to offer any packages, bundles, memberships, or subscription options. Now this is just you expanding and adding on to your potential offer. How is it making it more valuable to the customer? Because around a certain time, season, whatever, they may want more things at a bundled price. You make more money doing it that way. You ain't sleeping? You sure? Oh, okay. Long day. Okay. He good? All right. Okay. So there's that. Now, money, finances. If y'all were to have to pitch this business, this cake business to someone now, considering the raw materials you need, the marketing, even if you need a space to cook from, gas, light, utilities, how much money, capital, would you say you would need for this business to start? Please don't kill me. $5,000.
Minimum 50 grand.
Do not kill me. That's probably for one equipment.
I tell you, minimum 50 grand.
50 grand?
Minimum.
We sounding like 50 grand could help you.
Minimum.
Yeah, but you could get a good jump start maybe with 50 based on what your budget looks like. It might not be. You know, there's some business plans, the minimum they got going is $1 million that they need in funding. $1 million. You know? So let's say, because 5,000, that's a grant. A grant only could buy one thing you need off yet. So side note too when it comes to grants. Side note when it comes to grants. Y'all know about SPDC grants. Y'all know about probably the Bahamas Development Bank, they have grants. They still do it. There's more coming out though. Budget debate. Budget debate. Every time they have a grant, they post it. If you on their email list, you can see what grants they have. Now, they've been having grants that's specific to certain people. Like the latest one I think I saw was for Disabilities and Men Initiative. They always have a tourism one going because they want to make sure they have more businesses giving tourists more things to do because the market for that is a lot. More ships come in. They have tourists walking the beaches. They want to make more money off them tourists. Because if we make money, the government make money, and don't let us miss and make more than $100,000. That's bad. They getting their 10%. You know. So grants. The thing I want to mention with grants. Oftentimes, I find people try to narrow down their budget based off of the amount that the grant is offering. It's okay to say in a grant, like, I actually technically need about 10 grand. Y'all give me about 5. I have other ways that I can possibly get more additional income or have gotten additional, but I need this much to take me to where I need to be. It's okay to say, this 5,000, this to purchase a main product that I need. I got this, or I getting this, or I partnering with somebody to facilitate this. You don't have to narrow and cramp down your $5,000 to say, oh, I only can afford to get about 100 shirts. I got to get a press machine and whatever. No, because you probably want to go in making money. You want to flip that 5,000 to 10 as soon as you can. Flip that 10 to 20 if you can. You know what I mean? So that's the thing about grants. That's the only assertion with grant. Now, when we're talking financial goals, we got to talk money. If you was going to go to get a loan, how much money you need to make this business make sense? So that's something to think about. So even the persons who I pick on, who have a business idea and they know they need funding for it, write down all the things that would make the business make sense. And where there's a shortage with finances, who can you partner with in order to get you access to what you need? Think about all of that. Because investment could be more than money. It can be more than money. It can be partnerships. It can be all of that stuff. You know? It can't be you being resourceful. Child, Airbnb, they own any of the properties that they have a platform. Uber, they own any of them guys? No. A real estate agent, they important. But you don't need them to buy or sell a house. But they're making their commissions. They're in between. Right? So it's good to know your financial goals. Figure out about. There's many different ways to finance. It don't just have to be a loan. It could be bartering. It could be bootstrapping. Right? It could be grants, which you don't have to pay back. Right? You have a question. So that's when you earn the money yourself and you funnel it into the business. That's bootstrapping. And or I wonder if that's also inclusive of getting money from your family members. It could, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. So it's the creative way that you have, because you could have a business shower where persons come and they give you investment towards your business. Crowdfunding, all of that, right? All of that. Because you just want to make sure you get the money to start that business. Big joke. Okay. Now, so we already talked about how much money. Write a list of what it is you may possibly need for the business and cost. The next thing is in the financial section, your salary. What's hold on, wait, I skipping something. Startup expense, cost, budget. No, I ain't skipping nothing. Now, salary. Salary is yeah, right? That's important. As a solo business owner, that don't mean it's only you gotta work the business. You could hire staff. You need to know from the jump who you need to hire to make to multiply what you're trying to make. Because you could only make so much in your business by yourself. And you could potentially end up bottlenecking the business, meaning slowing down the flow of revenue in the business when it's just you. So to know who you may need to hire from the jump could be very helpful. So you write down who you may need, who the money makers could be in the business, right? Write that down. Who's the possible, if you need admin, what would that look like? If you can't necessarily afford admin in the first year or two, then what systems can you use to automate some of the processes? Because hiring digital systems for the free 99 or for a subscription that's little or nothing could be most helpful. So what systems can you deploy to make the admin part make more sense? So while you're baking your cake, you're still getting customers coming and you're still getting leads, right? So be mindful of that. You don't need to write like janitor if you're in you right now. Everybody got to come pitch in and clean. But at some point, as the business grow, and the key persons need to focus on the money making aspect of the business, then yeah, okay, outsource it. Or who do you need to outsource certain things to? Because you could hire a VA, a virtual assistant, if it makes sense. You know, you could hire someone who would do your marketing for you, outsource that. So you have to write down who would make the business make sense. How is it going to make more sense, right? Some things to consider. So salary could turn into whatever the contractual amount budget is, right? Then operating expenses. What are some operating expenses that you have to consider? Electricity, rent, gas, internet. If I ain't say internet, right? Supplies. Okay. So what are those expenses? That's something to consider. We running up on time, so I gonna try to get this out, and then we can get the questions because that's always fun. So be mindful. Like, what are all of the operating expenses? Now, y'all taking these home. I expect y'all to fill these out. Hey, y'all trying to start a business? Just y'all have to fill this out, right? Good stuff. So another part. What is your expected average sale value per customer or transaction? Now, that sounds like a very complex question. Very complex. So let's simplify that. How much money you want to get from each customer? How much money can you possibly get from each customer? If you could add a value to the core offering, what's that? Say what you're saying. Uh-huh. Right. So what's that sale gonna be? What's that product add value gonna be? What's that average sale value gonna be? Right? Because then again, that helps you to figure out your break even. Like how much of this amount you need to sell, right? So this the break even part, right? So what's that average sale value? Is it $100? Is it $25? Is it $50? Is it $3,000? Now, if it's $3,000, my God, your selling process gotta be top notch. Boom. I like that. Use manage. Use a manager. Not yet. Okay, okay. Now, how many sales or customers per month or week would you need to make in order to break even? Because now we didn't go on over all the costs. We need to figure out what that amount is. Now, mind you, that may not occur to you right away. You probably need to get the value for the cost of whatever you're selling, figure out your expenses and all the things, and then divide the two. You're right. Divide fixed costs into sales value so you can figure out what the units you need to sell. Right? Then fun part, what's your revenue target? Now revenue and profits is two different things. Somebody tell me why. Hmm? Not necessarily. You kind of on it, but not necessarily. Bing. So revenue and profit. So companies will say, "Oh, we made $100,000 in revenue this year." It makes nothing. It means nothing if they had $120,000 in expenses. That means they operated at a loss that year. So revenue is something to aim for, especially when you're starting off. But profit is the ultimate goal. Because you know what you could do with them profits? So I talked to y'all about the company structure before. If y'all got shareholders and y'all working in the business or y'all are shareholders in that company, what they're looking for is profit because that's when they get paid if they're not actively working in the business. If they get $100,000 left over and they own 3,000 shares, they're entitled to 3,000 worth of that profit or that dividends. That, and even if you don't have a corporate structure and you have a solo business, right? I know what a lot of us do is dip into the revenue as it comes. We cannot need to do that. We gotta fix that. I know sometimes it's necessary, but we gotta fix it. Keep account of all the money, because at the end of a certain period, you want to be able to say, I pay myself this much in profit. With said profit, then you could go and ball off of that or invest off of that. But if you dipping into your money every single time you get paid, you ain't gonna see no money. And don't let you have a product-based business and you ain't. Now say ouch if you feel it, yeah. Say ouch. Because the thing is, don't let you miss and have a product-based business and you need to reinvest into your stock. How you gonna reinvest in stock and you then eat all the money? How you gonna do that? Right, so you gotta keep account of your money. Accounting is a big part of this too. How do y'all keep account of your money? Let's just insert this real quick. What do y'all use to keep track of your revenue and expenses? What app? What QuickBooks? That's what I want to hear. Wave app, right? Uh-huh. Zoho books. Excel, yes, but the thing is that's so manual, and if you ain't no accountant, don't bother with that. Even accountants is dealing in QuickBooks. Don't bother with that. Because you got to put in them formulas, and if you don't know numbers, don't bother with that. But write this down. For some of you who may not know which apps to use, you have QuickBooks. QuickBooks costs money, so if you don't got no money, you got Wave app. If you don't, some people still doing Wave app, but I have Zoho books. You still have access, yeah. Hold on. You have to have an international for Wave, but Zoho books. It is good. It is good. So if you have it, keep using it. Yeah. Ah, yes, but if you want to decomplicate the process and don't necessarily want to have a VPN, now you got a VPN because it can give you access to a lot of things. But Zoho Books is also a good platform to use and it's for free. So what you use now? Figaro, let me tell you something. So Figaro, if y'all don't know, is a app that allows you to, if you have a CIBC that it connects through, it allows you to have an online payment process. Customers, you do an invoice for the customer, and that goes to your bank account. So it takes out the PayPal. I don't know if you all about PayPal and have been using PayPal. PayPal is take most of your money. So I don't never suggest PayPal. I feel like I've gone through so many online payment options. Since we're talking about it, I'll talk about a few. Who know about SunCash? SunCash. So I have a merchant account with SunCash too. It's not as in terms of online payment because once you pay, they transfer that money to whatever bank account you have in there, whatever. So you have that online option where it's like a suncash.me/your business name. You have a customized link, and the customer could pay. Now it's not invoices. It doesn't have an invoicing aspect of it, so it's still very manual in nature. Same with Figaro. You could have your invoicing and you could send it out to the customers and all of that stuff. But it doesn't necessarily keep good track of expenses. So I wouldn't recommend it for in terms of like managing your books. For payment, I guess, but you have to pay a subscription for that every month. Figaro, you have to pay like $15, I believe it is, if they didn't go up every single month. Now there's also another option. So I talk about Figaro. There's also SunCash. There's PayPal that I do not recommend, but Stripe is an option. Stripe is an option if you have an LLC, a U.S. LLC. So LLC is different than LTD. LTD is Bahamian corporate structure. LLC, C corps, and all of that is U.S. structure. That's like giving your business a U.S. passport. Once you get that LTD, you're able to get access to a U.S. business bank account. You get access to Stripe, PayPal, even if you want to use it. Still don't recommend it. You get access to not necessarily, it's not a TIN, it's an EIN, right? Employee identification number. And you could build credit with that LLC, buy assets with that LLC, build, get loans and all the things with that LLC. I recommend it if you want to have a seamless payment option, and if you want to expand your market to the U.S. Just for digital services, physical services, it would be way more complex. Yeah, you can pay with Stripe. So Stripe is a platform that allows you customers to use their credit card, debit card, or whatever. Stripe, yeah, Stripe.com.
So if you don't have that the US LLC, which one do you usually use for commerce?
Sun Cash for online payment. Yeah, Sun Cash, Figaro. I think CXPay is something else I'm going to look into, but CXPay, for those that may have a Wix website, you can have invoicing through that to get online payments. But they are also not integrative. Mm.
Also, like a person, so you have your business license and you have a business account set up with your particular bank. If, like CIBC, Commonwealth, or in Scotia, they now provide you with the attachment to your phone where you could use
Fidelity talking.
Fidelity and Fidelity, but no CIBC Fidelity, they allow you to have the attachment to your phone.
Credit card to
So you
take
could
credit card
accept
payment.
card payments through that.
Oh, and Canoe. I didn't even mention Canoe.
Yeah.
But again, assess all of these options, weigh them, because I believe Canoe, you have to pay like a monthly fee or something and a substantial setup fee. Sun Cash, last I checked, you don't have a setup fee with them. You have a processing fee with them. But it's very small, like compared to other options. So if you want customers, and there's also still bank transfer for persons that have that option, but it's again not integrated. Stripe, I could connect that to my Zoho, and if I invoice someone and they choose to pay online, I still get that all of that uh, payment processing, Stripe fees, whatever, is still being tracked in my Zoho. It's integrative in that way. So for convenience purposes, and because I could expand my clientele and have expanded my clientele otherwise, I'm able to use that. But you also have these other options. Bank transfer, if needed, yeah, sure. Then also, if you want to make it even easier, Sun Cash, sure. Once you invoice the client, you send them their bill that they could pay online. A lot of these, even other institutions, like use them, like insurance companies and all of that. I know they use it at some point. Some of these insurance companies use it as well. If you could digitize your online payment process, I would recommend you do so. Because especially if you have a deposit type business where clients have to make a deposit before you get started on their project or service, which I recommend if you all don't already have it, then online payment makes it so much easier. So once they make that payment, they serious, they ready to go. They ready to roll. Right? So online payment, write it down. Consider the options that are available. Revenue target. Now competition. I'll zip through this. How much more? 2. Okay, good. So competition. Why y'all need to know what's going on with your competition? Boom. What else? And it also helps you to see the standard that is already set in the market. Because some businesses drive costs in terms of like pricing and stuff. So you have to be mindful of what the market expected cost is for something that you may be selling, right? So that's one of the key things that you have to consider when you start a business. What's your competition doing? Right? How much they selling their stuff for? And then you could also see, okay, they selling it for this price. When you assess your cost and how much you want to charge it, If their price is way low, that means they probably buying at a bigger scale. So you could assess if whether you should offer this particular product or do something just a little bit different. What you could write and how could you differentiate yourself from the competitor, right? Because there's BTC and now, thank God, there's Alive. Not to say that BTC ain't whatever, because I have BTC and Alive, but for two different things, right? We have BPL and hopefully somebody else comes, right? We have what's another key competitor that going head to head for the market of something. No, actually, they're not. They're not owned by the same. Marcos and them owned by one person. Samsung and Apple. Samsung. All right, man. As I look at my Apple Watch and look at my iPad. ah, ooh, right. Apple Nation. So you got Samsung. Now I ain't gonna lie. Samsung cameras really do be. I ain't gonna lie. I can't lie on Apple and say Apple cameras is it. It. It ain't. Samsung. Huh? Check my settings. That's what I can do. So I can be competing. Yeah. No way. Right. And through my brain, through my skull. Oh, okay. I mean, hey, Samsung and Apple been going at it. Yeah. Right. But then, could we compare Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts? Two of them sell coffee. Right? If you want donut, yes. But the way that Starbucks has franchised and established its brand, man, with a cup of Starbucks, I feel bougie. Like I'm that girl. You know? I feel like, wow, nobody can talk to me. I have a Starbucks. Dunkin' Donuts, I feel like I sitting with the old people in they reading the newspaper. They right, right. They go into Starbucks to make money. Right. You know? So that's the kind of differentiation we need to have. That's the case I'm trying to make. Whew. Oh yeah, Starbucks, yeah. And I got their cups like I need it. Cause now I could have whatever in that Starbucks cup. You feel like I'm that girl. Hello? So that's what we need to do when we think about our business. How could we set ourselves apart from everybody else? What my competition doing that they ain't even thinking about that the customers secretly want? In order for you to know that, research is necessary. Paying close attention to the market is necessary. So you can know, okay, this customer really, they just go to this other competitor for something, but they really want like ease of doing it. They want something more easy, something simpler. That's what I get all the time. Huh? And you could ask ChatGPT. Implement, use AI, use digital systems. I mean, so much people still opposed to digital systems. If you set something up digitally alone, you didn't set yourself apart. Alone. When I get in call clients, and I have a partnership with partnerships make sense. Because even when I behind the scenes, because I partner with certain people, I still get business. Right? So I have what's my business? I can big myself up at the end. Oh, okay. I can talk about my business. But like because I have certain systems in place, my partners, they're not as digitally savvy as me. We can fix that. But they're not as digitally savvy as me. They still don't have online like a process where customers they can send their form and sign in. We work in corporate. So that means if we get incorporation and we need someone to sign something quick, if you know about incorporation, there's a lot of documents to sign. You know? Memorandum, articles of association, statutory declaration, affidavit, then posting call. You need to get the certificate of incumbency and all these other things, right? Sometimes I have customers that don't live here and they need to sign something quick. I can't go fly on a plane to go have them sign something. So I send them the document. They sign this. Say, oh my God, this was so easy and simple. I didn't have to print this and then sign it and then scan it. And then once I finish all that stuff, I get the incorporation certificate, all of that. I have a portal, VIP dashboard, that I pay for because I want customers to be able to log in and see their stuff. That's digital. That alone. And my partner's like, what are they talking about? When the customer go back to them and say, she make it so simple and easy and da 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 da. I'm like, I told y'all I have an online signing thing. They don't know what the VIP dashboard because I built that prior to. But they my partner, so I can put them on some game. Right? So that's that. That alone could set you apart. If someone inquiring about a service, I could send them a link. I have a website. I have all the things. If you have a question, I make myself available. I got you. You need a book a consultation? I got you. Why you laugh? Huh? That's why I have digital systems, calls, calls, oh God. You know? But online systems help you. That's why life with congruency. That's what I'm talking about right now. I didn't tell y'all as an introvert. I don't look it when I come up here and talk, but you know what I mean? So there's that. Now, we over time. Even the color on the clock changed. Whoa. Okay. So, okay, with competitors, we got to look at what they're selling, their prices. Then we got to assess their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's the quickest and easiest way to assess what the gap is, to figure out that gap. Is money in the gap, you know, right? And then do the same for yourself. Assess what your business strengths are, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's SWOT, right? That alone is a game changer. Once you then align those two, you figure out your competitors' SWOT, your SWOT. Now, what are the gaps that the business can improve on? What is your competitor not doing that you can do? And what is your competitive advantage or differentiator? And that's that. We finish with that. I promise you, if you at least give it a solid go. Let's say 9:11. Why did I say 8:15? Oh, I gotta go. So, if you answer all of these questions in as much detail as humanly possible, you at least have a flat baseline for building a solid plan. Now, the next part, when y'all get it, y'all see how all of this makes sense. What the prompts will allow you to be able to do in ChatGPT. When you read, once you then give ChatGPT exactly what it needs, once you read what it generates for you, because you gave it the right, valuable information, you would be astonished. You would think you was a great copywriter. You could write a solid business plan. Someone could pay you, right? And then you could get into the projections and all of that good stuff when it comes to doing a business plan. Now, I have any questions? Let me have it. Go ahead. Oh, does it here? I could put it in the box. It on. You didn't need it? Yeah, you get it anyway. Okay, go ahead.
My question is, how do you go based on paying yourself?
What's your salary? What salary you want to make? That's how you reverse engineer that. We ain't gonna go 15 because that's a little low. Miss Mama say that's low. 50 grand. How much money you want to make as your salary? That's how you do that.
Yes.
How much you
Thinking
gonna
more of
make?
like a percentage base. Like, should you take a certain percentage from it?
So,
Like after profit or before profit?
so now you're talking about labor as it relates to break even then, or production. So if you're talking about labor as it relates to production, what's the average for whatever role you're fulfilling for that specific production part? Like for example, if you're making skincare products, how much hours are you spending to make that product? And what's the average cost if you were to hire somebody to make that same product? How much would you have to pay them? If it's 8 hours at $8, you multiply 8 and 8. That's what I say, right? $8 and 8 hours. Boom. Multiply that, and you get the amount that you would pay yourself for that specific time. That would also mean that you have to document how much time you're spending. So documentation in all the process of your business makes sense because when you have to duplicate it, you have a document to go by to say, I sat down, I made this much, I used this much materials, I had to use this much. As you're keeping track of all of that, they spent this much time. It helps you to figure out how much it costs to produce something. Even in services, how long it take you to make a flyer. It gives you that minimum idea of how much to pay yourself. right? Now quality, right? But when you charging based off quality. But when you paying based off an average market rate for that specific role. So that's what I would say. What type of business you have? Shout it out.
I have a printing business. I print T-shirts, cups, anime stuff.
Okay, woo. Whatever the man hours is, you can pay yourself that. Now, as a CEO, that's you as the person who doing the production, right? At some point, you want to grow the business to where you paying somebody else to do that. I would hope. But as the manager, operations manager, what salary would you give yourself? And then you could technically kind of sort of include that in a fixed cost and aim to make a certain amount that you could pay yourself, right? Also, side note, ain't no shame in having a job as you build your business. Because if you start the business, that business is not going to probably be able to pay you right away. And if you try to attempt to cost force that business to pay you right away, you may suffocate the business faster than anything else. So if you need to hold on to a career, have that career pay you while you build up your assets in the business, do that. That's your equity. You can get that back after a while. Your question. You was finished actually? That answer your question? In totality, you able to kind of plot that out when you go home? Boom. Go ahead. It on? Let me get the other mic then. Hold on. Oh, three mics in here. Okay, hold on. This on. I know this one on. Go ahead.
It's not a question. It's more of a statement.
Mm-hmm.
So, I started my business during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and I realized that not working, I made more money versus having a job and a business.
Mm-hmm.
So that could go both ways, like how you said.
Yeah.
Some can stabilize, and also some can diminish.
Yeah.
So I don't
And you
make.
still have your business now, right?
I still have it, but I don't make no
As much.
profit. I don't make anything.
Why?
So I'm basically just doing it for fun, like a hobby, because
Oh, okay.
whatever I spend is whatever I charge.
Okay.
Versus during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm. And that was all you was doing, and people still had their, you know, business income or not, they buying cake because birthday's still happening, right? Go ahead. Oh, you need my help. Okay. Now the clock blew. I don't know what to do. Oh wow. Okay.
My question is, how do you determine whether or not you'd want a, I guess, limited company versus a LLC?
They do the same thing.
Correct.
The
However,
so it would be based off of where would your see. Okay, I have so many ways because I would recommend you have both.
okay, that was my follow-up.
Right. I would recommend having both
Okay.
for two different reasons. So the LTD covers you here, the LLC covers you there. And it
Okay.
gives you access to more there. The LTD is useful here because you could also purchase assets with your limited company and all the things. Now, keep in mind, it may be up for grabs if something happened, but you could have a holding company.
I was about to ask.
Yeah.
You'd recommend that they both fall under a
Right.
holding company.
Right. And then your LLC could have ownership of the LTD here too. So there's ways that can happen. You could intermesh the two.
And these are services that you offer.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I recommend too because there's different benefits for both. Right? More questions or y'all? That's it for y'all. Nobody? No? 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 Because the clock changing color, y'all gotta hurry y'all now. Okay.
Okay, you briefly mentioned scaling. So, like, for
Mhm.
product-based business versus service, like, just quickly
Right.
tell us, like, how we could scale product versus.
So for your type of business, scaling would probably more than likely look like adding a product. Y'all know about Beauty by Becca? That's the perfect example. So she started the business while doing hair crocheting and all the things. Took 9 times out of 10 took her profits, reinvested and or got investment to invest in that edge cream. And I promise you she making plenty money and that's her scale. She could sell that without advertising now. Right? That's a key example. So for services like what you have, it could look like products. You know? For digital services, any in here. It could look like selling a digital product, making passive income. What else in here? Even for y'all baking, the new Duff. Look at what they did. So now they have where they can manufacture products that I said okay, gotta stop. He had more time or what he doing? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, so even for products like selling a bacon, whatever, you could figure out how you could re-engineer the way that you bake so that it could be shelf worthy and you sell it that way. You distribute it. You do a wholesale thing and you sell a distribution. You could do it that way. And it's also okay. I think I mentioned this earlier that if you want to take your profits and invest it something else, that's a way that you could still scale your life personally. Because if you take your profits and you invest it in, say, real estate, then that's something that's making money over and over and over and over, depending on how you structure it and depending on what you do. Yeah? Okay. Go ahead. So you could allow her, because. Oh, go ahead.
Good evening. So my question is about market research.
Mm-hmm.
So once I have, I guess, a set of questions that I need answers to, other than social media, how do I find the target that I want to get these responses from, and how do I get them to want to answer my questions essentially, so that I can
That's a good
get the
question.
information that I need to
That's a
cater
very,
to
very
them
good question.
directly.
So the thing that I don't necessarily like as much when it comes to our Bahamas is we don't have easily accessible information for the target market that we serve. So unfortunately, what we would have to do is marry the type of customer that we want for here to the US because we have more data with international similar target demographics, right? So that's the only thing, and then you have to kind of be creative in how you tweak it and minimize it because again the market size would look so much different. We have how much people we have in the Bahamas now? Like, is it over 500,000 yet? It's 400,000. Silly, we still ain't nowhere near 500,000. So we have to be kind of creative in how we reduce the percentage of how we figure out our market amount. Now, when it comes to certain industries, like with skincare, people would have similar pain points. So you could easily research that. That's something that's easily researchable. When it comes to cultural stuff, we know what our culture want. We know what people here would 9 times out of 10 need. And when there is a lack of information, there, surveying. Surveying is a key way to figure out what your market wants. And you would probably have participants like, because when y'all know about office sharing, right? Like InQdesk or Access Co-working now. Before that became a thing, there was venture co-working, and they were the first to do it. Maybe not the first to think about it, but they were the first to do it. But they did a survey to figure out if the market wanted something where they do a shared co-working space. Now that was something that was already being done in the U.S., right? But it was something that wasn't being done here. So they wanted to figure out if we would want to do it. And now we have a couple of different co-working spaces, and it makes sense. We even have one for beauty, right? People have duplicated that model because they know now that the market wants it. So when there's a lack of information online, or you aren't able to tweak what is accessible online, don't be afraid to ask. Ask your customers, like, what do you want? Tweak, and you could use ChatGPT to help you figure out what questions to ask. Yeah. I answered your question. Ask me more. What exactly you want to know? So how do you access the people? So tell me a bit about what you do, so I could give you specific whatever. What do you do? You're a chef. Okay. Okay. This could have been a three-way partnership, but go ahead. Mm-hmm. Go to where your target is. So this could be. It could look weird, but hey, we have bloggers that just pull out cameras and just be like, hey, right? But it could look like you go into when you go to a specific event or and there's a cake present. Like, what do you look for certain pastries? Go where your customers are, cause whoever eat. I mean, come on. You could post it on social media, mind you, and you could possibly garner a lot of persons to fill in that survey, and you could make it enticing to say if you fill it out, then you could possibly win something, or you could fill it out and get 10% off of something. You want to make it make sense for them too, because if they're spending 5 minutes or 2 minutes of their time, they may, as well they may not, want something in return. But the value for you is that you get to get that valuable feedback. So you set an amount that you want. If it's 1,000 surveys or 100 people that you want to survey, you would go and in a certain time frame, because that's also a big part of it. You would go where your customers are probably gonna be, right? Or you could stand somewhere, just have them scan a code and fill it out, and they get a discount card or something. Go where they are. Yeah. I will make sure if I move. Okay. All right. All right. Ready all the time. So yeah, be quick. It's a digital survey, right? Okay. Hmm.
The persons that trust her, she'll send it to them.
Yeah.
The persons that trust her, will send it to them. So,
Yeah.
so it's like people
Network.
respond
Yeah.
to the people they trust.
Yeah.
They may not know you, but because she's saying, put it out to me, they can fill out for possible, fill out for you.
Right.
See how they say,
And you would get your quota, hit your quota.
I
But
understand.
I would say there ain't no shame in your game. You're trying to get to know what your customers need and all the things. So get it to the customer, the potential customer. Anyone with a sweet tooth is a customer. I mean, if they could spend the money, right? Okay. Last question.
All right. So my question is really with my business.
Uh-huh.
It's going to be in the relaunch stages.
Okay.
And so I started this business during the pandemic as well. And it's similar to Louise's. It's a printing and professional service business.
Partnerships. All I hearing
So-
is partners up in here.
So what I did was I offered it's more branding for other business.
Right. Right.
though. So letterheads, even stuff like resumes,
Mhm.
printing flyers, printing
Okay.
business cards, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And it was going really well at
Mhm.
that period of time.
Mhm.
But after the pandemic, I wasn't working at that time.
Mhm.
So after the pandemic, I started back in the hospital.
Mhm.
And really and truly, my question is based on life business congruency, which you would have mentioned. And just what would your advice be to persons who have a service business that would require a lot of time? So, persons saying, okay, hey, I need this amount of stuff for a certain period of time, but then my main job takes up so much time. Because in my brain, it really ended because I figured, okay, for this, I need a storefront with different printers,
Right, right.
workers, that
Right,
sort
right.
of thing. That
Right.
was my mindset for it to work. But what would your advice be to someone restarting and just making that life business congruency make sense?
So it could look a different way. Partnership is the first thing that comes to mind. Who can you partnership that could execute the delivery? Who have the time availability to get the products produced? That's the first thing that comes to mind. The second thing that comes to mind is, are you pricing enough to be able to pay someone to execute the services while you're in the hospital saving lives? So those are the two things I would consider. Who already does it that you could trust and you all could partner together? They do the execution, you do the marketing, you pulling in people to come and do the to make the sales, and all they doing is pushing out the product, right? So that's the key thing. And then if not that, who you hiring? Who are you able to hire if you're pricing enough, and you have a market size that boom, because you don't want to be operating at a deficit. But partnerships help you to kind of like still be able to be in the green. Yeah. He said one more question. I live with you. Oh, okay.
30 seconds.
30 seconds on the clock.
Even one point, like you said, partnerships. So sometimes it may not have to be person to person. Sometimes what we do is look at companies to business. So if you know there's a company, invitation or US that we could connect your business to, that could produce the stuff that you need, you can connect with them, add their price to your price, and So the thing about contracts. The contract is the way that solidifies your growth, that you would know, right now if you hire somebody, that's clear that this is going on. It's something you don't want to put yourself in a place where you connect yourself to an organization, but you don't have the cash flow, the bloodline flowing into your business, which cannot be sustainable. So you can think about those things as well.
Yeah. Thank y'all for your time.
You
We
tell
will.
us what you do.
Oh, what I do. Right. Let me be quick. So I have a business company, where I help clients to build, profit, grow their business. That's the three core things, right? Because as you can tell in those same key points, that's the problem my customers serve. That my customers have. How do I do this? I help them with planning, strategy, legitimizing their businesses, structuring their businesses for success, whether it's through incorporation here or in the U.S. And then I also help clients to digitize because that also aids in their ability to grow and profit, right? So that's what I do in a nutshell. I've been doing it for quite some time, several years. My business was licensed in 2019, incorporated in 2022. So the things I'm telling you to do, I have done it. Online payment helps a whole lot in terms of converting customers, especially if you have a digital service or any service. Digital processes and online payments help you to be able to be more present and competitive in this digital economy that we exist in. So yeah, that's what I do. Incorporation, and I have my processes differentiate me from other people. Yes, 810-7726.
You have business cards?
I everything online. I'm gonna give you on my website. It's 810-7726. I may also probably send you something because I don't know. Anyway, that if you decide to give to someone for free, whether it's free coaching consultants or whatever the case is, so we could get into the nitty gritty of some of the businesses that I've heard in here. Also, I thank y'all for sharing because I know that's like something that's a lot of people sensitive about their stuff, so they don't necessarily want to share it. So I thank y'all for letting me pick on y'all. Yeah, and website Polish Professional. I think it on there. If not, then I'll send that to polishprofessionalsconsultancy.com. Yes, I know it's long. Professionalsconsultancy.com. Y'all got free access to something I sell on my website right now. Right now. You're welcome. You're welcome. I was happy to. Yeah, consultancy. I know. And I have 2 domains, but that's for the client portal. Yeah, consultancy.com. And that's it. Yes. Pause professional, same thing. All my links, once y'all get to the site, it there. I should have put that scan code there, so, because digital, right? But,